If you want a great tone on the saxophone, then it all comes down to mastering your airstream. Whether you want a big fat in your face tone, or a sexy, breathy tone. It all comes down to the way you put your air into the saxophone. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you a couple things to practice that will give you a dramatic and pretty quick result to get you closer to the saxophone tone of your dreams. When it comes to tone, we always have to start at the very beginning, and that is with regular old standard long tones. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because every saxophone teacher talks about long tones. So if you are learning how to play the saxophone or trying to get your tone on point, chances are you're already practicing long tones. But just for the little quick recap, when it comes to long tones, you just want a really steady tone with no warbles, no disruptions, just a really clear and clean tone, something that sounds kind of like this. Notice when you hear my tone, there aren't any distractions, there's no warbles, it's just really, really steady breath support and airstream. You don't hear this. If you hear those warbles in your long tones, that is the first thing you need to fix before you do anything else. You need to have control over your airstream when it comes to playing those long tones. You need that steady, flat pitch with no warbles. Now, when I say flat in this video, I'm not talking about pitch. I'm talking about just a steady airstream, no warbles or anything like that, no disruptions. So the very first thing to do, of course, is get your long tones on point. Once you've got your regular long tones down, then you are ready for the magic sauce. This next little concept that I'm going to teach you is pretty simple. Actually, it's difficult to do, but the concept itself is very simple. But once you start working on it, it is going to have a huge effect on your tone. So the next thing you want to practice is whisper soft long tones. And that is exactly what it sounds like. It's when you play a long tone, but you play it incredibly super soft. Basically as soft as you can play on your saxophone to still get that note to come out and not just have air. So I don't want soft, I want super, super, super soft where you're on the edge of losing the note. And I want you to hold that and control that note. When you slow your air down that much, you're going to have complete mastery over that airstream. In the beginning, it's going to be tough, but as you work on this, you are going to absolutely own your airstream. So whisper soft long tones. This is what they sound like. Now, I don't know if you could hear that. I'm going to re-record it at a little bit louder of a volume in case my microphone isn't picking it up. But I am playing so soft that I'm right at the edge of losing that note and just having air. And I'm holding it pretty steady. That is the trick with whisper long tones. The easiest pathway to getting the tone of your dreams is to master your airstream and whisper long tones. They are magic. I'm telling you, they are magic. So I'm going to do it again. Pay really close attention. I'm going to do it on a middle B. I'm just going to start off fairly soft and then just bring it down and try and hold that soft note for as long as I can and as steady as I can. That time I did it a little bit louder just so that I knew my microphone would pick it up. But when you play that soft, you can feel the air moving. You can feel the air going into the mouthpiece. It really gets you in touch and in tune with your airstream. Now I'm going to do the same thing this time on a low D. And when you do it on a low note, you're going to actually hear the note sound, but you're also going to hear the air because the air is moving further through the saxophone. You're going to hear the air. Now, I don't know if my microphone is going to pick up the air, but when I'm playing this, I can hear the air along with my note. That time I was getting some weird buzzes. It's kind of crazy. I don't know what's going on. And there might be some spit in my mouthpiece, so you want to make sure you don't have a spitty mouthpiece. I'm going to try it again and try and get that tone really clear. But you could also hear the note, the air, and then that little weird buzz. Now, when I'm doing this, if I do anything at all with my airstream, I'm going to get a little warble. You want to work on trying to get rid of those warbles. When you are playing super soft, you are going to get some. There's just no way around it. But if you can work towards the steadiest stream you can get, that's going to be awesome. And I'm telling you, these are magic. You're going to hear a huge difference in your tone in just a matter of a couple weeks. And the way you're going to hear a big difference in your tone is actually on the louder end of playing. Believe it or not, practicing playing really soft gives you a bigger, fuller tone, because when you're playing that soft and moving the air that slow, you have to have complete control. When you speed that air up, it's going to be way easier to control it at the louder volumes. So you're going to notice that by practicing super soft whisper long tones, that your louder end of the saxophone, your fortes and your fortissimos are going to get a lot louder, a lot bigger, a lot more full, and you're going to be able to control them more. Let me know in the comment section what your perfect sound would be. Give me some adjectives. Give me something to describe your sound. You can use the sound of another saxophone player, but add some of your own descriptive words to that sound as well. Understanding what you want your sound to be is a big step forward in getting that sound to come out of your saxophone. Once you've got the whisper soft long tones down, the next step is going to be extreme dynamics long tones, and they are exactly what they sound like. You're going to start mezzo forte-ish, get really loud, and then bring it really soft. You're going to try and keep it fairly even as you're getting louder and fairly even as you're getting softer, and you're going to blow really hard. You're going to really focus your air to get to the center of your mouthpiece so that your note doesn't give out as you get really loud. Now, these aren't going to sound pretty by any means at all, but it's going to help you control your air at different speeds. And that's a really big part of getting the tone that you want, is being able to control your air at different speeds. Now you could hear that time when I got to the edge of as loud as I could play on that G, it went a little flat. I think my tongue went down a little bit. So you need to keep your air steady, your tongue steady. You want to keep that pitch as in tune as possible without it wavering around at all. That was better, but at the end I went, it wasn't very even as I let the air go to the very soft side. So you want to work on this, trying to make it as even as possible. You want to push the edge of as loud as you can play. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to sound like pretty and beautiful on the loud side. We're really pushing it with these extreme dynamic long notes, long tones, but you do want to have control of it. You want to get right to that edge of where you're losing control on the loud end. That was a lot better. So what I'm trying to do is control my air speed. Your air speed is super important. That is one of the main components when it comes to getting the tone that you want. So work on regular long tones. Once you get those down, work on whisper soft long tones. Once those are pretty comfortable, then do extreme dynamic long tones. Once you've worked on these concepts for a couple weeks, it's going to take longer than a couple weeks to master them, of course, but once you've worked on them for a little bit and you feel comfortable, then I want you to imagine what your dream sound would look like. Not what it would sound like, but what it would look like. So when I say that, I mean, if you want a bright sound, a full sound, a dark sound, an airy sound, a smooth sound, whatever you want, what would that look like as far as the air going into the saxophone? Would your air be moving really fast? Would it be in a tight pattern, like a really focused pattern? Would it be spread out? Think about what that airstream would look like. For example, if someone were to describe my saxophone sound, they'd probably say bright and big and fat and in your face. I can make my saxophone sound however I want it to, but that is kind of my signature sound. And for me to get that sound, I have to move my air very fast in a really tight, focused pattern. So I just want you to think about air size. So we could think about your air being like this, your air being like this, 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 this. For me, I think about my air being in a really tight, focused pattern, and it's moving very fast. Because I have that tight, focused pattern and I'm moving the air really fast, my reed is vibrating really fast, and that gives me a bigger sound. Now, if I wanted a darker sound, I would slow that airstream down and it would be in less of a tight pattern. So if my regular pattern is like this, I would think of a pattern more like that. Now, I could still get a big full sound with a pattern like that. It's just not going to be as bright and in your face as a pattern like that. So the trick is to use the speed of the air and the pattern of your airstream to get the sound that's in your head. Now, there is no right or wrong answer. It is 100% what you like, what you prefer, what sounds good to you. We have saxophone players on all different ranges of those two variables. So use those two variables to figure out or get closer to the sound that you have been dreaming of. Now would be a great time to hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and click that bell for notifications. For full disclosure, there is one other thing that you really have to keep in mind. You are not going to get the sound of your dreams overnight or in a week or in a month or in a year or maybe even in a couple years. It's one of those things that you are always going to be striving for. And then maybe once you get close to it, you might even change that concept a little bit. For pro saxophone players, we're always kind of searching and looking for that next little thing, that next little bit of it. It's one of those things that's going to take a lifetime as a saxophone player. But the more you work at it and the more control you have over your airstream, the better everything you play is going to sound. Now, there are two other things that I want to mention. Yes, your gear is going to influence your sound, but that's only about 10 to 15%, and that is after you've figured everything else out. So don't necessarily buy a mouthpiece to get the sound you want, or a specific reed or a specific saxophone. Work on getting the tone that you want, and then once you're getting pretty close to it, then start experimenting with gear to get that last 10 to 15%. Gear is important, but the way you're putting your air into the saxophone is way more important. And if you're not putting your air into the saxophone correctly, no gear that you buy is going to help you get closer to that sound. And the last thing I want to mention is overtones. Now, I'm not going to go into overtones at all in this video, but if we're talking about getting a better sound, a better tone on the saxophone, you have to bring up or at least mention overtones. Overtones are super important. I definitely suggest working on them because it forces you to pay attention to your airstream. Overtones don't work unless your airstream is in the correct position. So once you get the things that I talked about down in this tutorial, or as you are working on these, also work on overtones. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. If you'd like to dive deeper into my saxophone world, come check me out at the Scott Paddock Sax School.